Hey everyone, it's Brett from Hope to Prosper. I'm coming to you today from the Pine Knot Trail up in Big Bear, California. I've mountain biked this before, but I've never climbed it. So it's going to be a good hike, about 7.5 mile round trip. And I will show you, I'll talk to you again when I'm up at the top. Anyways, not that strenuous of a hike, but it should be fun and it's pretty and cool. All right, today's subject is how to retire early on less than $1 million. Thank you guys for coming along, and thanks for tuning into my channel. Greatly appreciate it. Hope you have fun today. Hope you learned something too. So, how do I retire early on less than $1 million? This is something I know a little bit about because I did it just about 7 months ago. I retired at age 58, basically 9 years early, on $930,000, which is close to $1 million, but still short. And where I live in San Clemente, California, kind of an expensive place. It's not a ton of money. It used to be $1 million was a lot of money. Now it's not as much as it used to be, but it's still better than nothing. So here's how I did it, and here's how you can do it too. And first of all, I want to tell you guys that this is going to be an abbreviated summary, right? I could literally spend 2 hours talking about this, and I don't want to bore all you guys with all this minutia and stuff that I've learned, when really you probably just want an overview if you can retire or not, and if so, how comfortably. So it's going to be a summary, and I'll probably make some future videos that dig into a little more detail for people who are interested. And if you've been following my channel, you kind of already know my story, and I just laid it out. But basically, I had a goal of retiring at 55 with $1 million. That didn't happen, so I readjusted it to retire at 60 with $1 million. And a couple years short of that, my company lost funding and folded up. So I was thrust into retirement at 58 with, I think, pretty good. I'm in pretty good shape. But basically, I had to retire early on less than $1 million. So now I'm going to share how I did it and how you can do it too. So first of all, step one, absolutely, is to calculate your expenses. I kind of took the lazy way. I said, well, this is how much I'm spending now. But in retrospect, I wish I had really spent more time on that and gone back and looked at my budget in depth and in detail. Because the truth is, my burn rate's been a little higher than I expected, and so I've had to kind of rein that in and get that under control. Your expenses are going to change in retirement, right? So I'm traveling a lot, and that costs a lot of money that I hadn't kind of calculated. But at the same time, some things go down. I'm not commuting to work every day and burning up a bunch of gas and things of that sort, eating lunches out. So definitely your expenses are going to change in retirement. You won't know how much and how, but just count on the fact that they're going to change a little. So kind of do a deep dive and really calculate your expenses. Start with your necessary expenses and then include what you think your actual expenses are going to be. It's kind of important. Another thing too, while you're calculating your expenses, don't forget healthcare, right? If you're going to think about retiring, you better try and figure out how much you're going to have to pay in healthcare. This is one of the biggest sticking points for me. When I first looked into this, I thought, okay, I got enough money to retire, except I don't have enough money for healthcare. So that was a big problem for me. In fact, that almost kept me from retiring, period. So get a quote, go onto your online exchanges. Getting healthcare is not too difficult. Like I'm in California, we have California Care. You can just put how much you're going to make, and then they'll tell you what your healthcare costs. And that was a pretty good value. So it's not crazy expensive, but it's not cheap. So that's the first thing. Calculate your expenses. Calculate both your actual minimum expenses and then your expected expenses, and use the higher number for your calculations. Okay, step two, pretty obvious. Calculate your income. Now this isn't as easy as you think it's going to be, because there's a lot of variables here. There's a lot of moving parts, and these things change over time. So just like your expenses will change over time in retirement, so will your income. So let's start with calculating your withdrawal rate from your investments. Anybody who's followed this channel knows that I use the 5% rule. to calculate my expenses. So at $930,000, I get about $46,500 per year, which is pretty good. I just rounded off to $4,000 a month, and that's pretty significant. It works for me. It's tight in some ways. Like I said, it doesn't necessarily cover the travel, but it definitely covers all my expenses. So you calculate your withdrawal rate from your investments, right? And then you add up all your other sources. Maybe you have some side gigs or your side money. You might have rental properties. You might have a small pension. So add up all your income sources. And by the way, when you add these up, it's not linear. You don't get them all at one time. You're going to get like your pension at one time, or you might get your side gigs at another time. So you kind of have to dynamically add it and calculate how your income's going to change, because that's actually significant. Same with Social Security, right? One of the biggest mistakes I made was I just kind of estimated Social Security off the top of my head. Big mistake. I spent a lot of time worrying about, oh my God, it's going to be razor thin, this and that. And then I realized I was going to get more Social Security than I expected. So do yourself a real favor. Go on ssa.gov, get a login, a My Account, and calculate the actual amount of Social Security you're going to get. It's still an estimate because, you're not retired yet. But at least you'll have a good idea how much Social Security you're going to get if you take it early, and if you take it late, or if you take it at your full retirement age. So calculate your Social Security. Make sure you know what you're going to get. And then you could do that in your, you could take that amount and you could do it in your simulations and in your calculators. Okay, so the third thing is create a retirement plan. Now, this doesn't have to be crazy. I know Joe Kuhn, he's saying he spent like hundreds of hours on spreadsheets and stuff. He uses New Retirement. I don't use that yet, but I plan to. Something like that, a real calculator is a godsend in retirement. But what I did was I just went online. I got a couple free calculators. I tried it in there. I got a couple free Monte Carlo simulations. And by the way, these are linked to my website. If you look at hopetoprosper.com, you can see I have links to the retirement calculators I used. So just do some basic calculations and see where you're at. Definitely do some Monte Carlo simulations. It's kind of fun. It gives you a probability number, like 85% or 95% you're going to make your retirement. And so it simulates different market conditions and things of that sort that you can't get with just a straight line calculator. It's kind of neat. So definitely, do some calculations and check your plan. I can't really stress this enough, how important it is to create your plan. Please don't skip this step. I don't care if you write it on a napkin or do a simple spreadsheet or however you do it, just have a basic income and expense plan. I went about 2 months without this, and I was freaking out the whole time. Man, I could kick myself. After I came up with an actual plan, it just gave me so much more confidence, and I realized I was a lot closer than I thought. So definitely create your plan, test it with the calculators, and then let's say you have some issues with it. You can adjust your plan as necessary, right? One of the good retirement videos I watched, I wish I knew the guy's name, he just said you could pivot, you can make changes, you can make adjustments. So basically, don't let fear make your retirement decisions, right? Don't be sitting around afraid to do anything. I was afraid to spend any money. I was freaking out. Don't do that. Make a plan. Check your plan. If your plan looks legitimate, even if it's close, it will give you so much confidence, and you can make some, make some adjustments and make the plan work. So definitely create your retirement plan. Definitely test it, and then if you have some issues, which I did, you can make adjustments and pivot. Later on, too, if your plan's not going accordingly, you can pivot. So don't let fear make your decisions for you. Have a plan and stick to it and go for it. Okay, so that comes up to another part of the subject. What if you come up short? What if you think you can retire and you run the numbers and they don't work? And by the way, this is exactly what happened to me, right? So don't get discouraged, right? First of all, take an objective look at everything and then see what adjustments you can make to make your plan work. Now, you might just find out right away that, okay, this isn't doable, period, at all. If you have a couple $100,000 and you're in your 40s or 50s and you're going to try and retire in California and you still have a big mortgage, probably not going to happen for you, right? It's probably not going to work out. So it's a good thing to know that up front, right, instead of crashing and burning. But what if you're a little bit short? That's what happened to me. I found out I could cover all my expenses but not my health care. And I made an adjustment. As all of you know, I went from the 4% rule to the 5% rule, and all of a sudden, all the numbers worked. It was amazing. But that's based on a real plan. And so that's how that came about. So the first question is, how far are you off? You know, if you're off $1,000 or $2,000 a month, or, you know, some small amount of money, consider, semi-retiring instead. That's one of my goals, is to find some income. I'm not just going to sit around and hope my money doesn't dwindle away. I want to do some side work, some side gigs, some projects. I want to keep as much of my money in the bank as possible for as long as I can, so that, number one, I could get it to grow, and then I get a bigger portion of my 5%. And then number two, by the time I hit Social Security, it's going to be pretty close to a sure thing, provided Social Security's still around. And so I don't have to worry about it, right? So the first thing is, consider semi-retiring, considering doing some side work. If you're close, and this is the difference between retiring or not retiring, man, I'm telling you, go for it. That's what I did, and I'm really, really happy that I did. I'm not tied to a desk 40 hours a week, on call, 24 hours a day. Instead, I'm going to do some small stuff, and I'll still be able to travel and enjoy my life on my terms. And if I make a little less money per hour, but I'm still pass and go, it's going to be great. So the second thing is, so if you can find some side hustle, side money, do it. Another thing is, can you retire some debt? You know, one of the things I did is I spent 2 years, probably 2020 and 2021, those years, retiring my second mortgage. You know, I had paid off my first mortgage. I had a small second mortgage. I just put everything into it till it was gone. And boy, that was huge, because then I got laid off, and guess what? I don't have a mortgage. So can you retire some debt? Can you find some extra income? If you can make this all happen and make it work, those are good options. The next thing is, should you delay? A lot of the retirement gurus, they caution against just delaying for no reason, right? A lot of people, it's a known fact that a lot of people work a bunch of extra years just because they're fearful. They don't have, the confidence to just pull the trigger on it. And then they waste a number of years of their life that they could be enjoying working when they really don't need the money. So, when you ask yourself the question, should you delay, make that decision based on facts and not fear, and make that decision on real numbers and not just off the top of your head. I could have easily delayed and said, oh, I don't have $1 million, I'm going to keep working, but I didn't, and I'm glad I didn't. If you're really short, here's something a lot of people are doing: geo arbitrage, right? I live in one of the most expensive places on the planet, basically. And I could easily sell my house for a lot of money and move somewhere cheap, and I could live like a king. But my family's here. I love where I live, so I have a more expensive option. But you may not. You may not be tied to where you live. You may think, hey, I don't have to work in the Bay Area. Or if I'm not working, I don't have to live in the Bay Area or LA or New York or whatever. You can go somewhere cheaper. My dad was an expat. He moved to a small tropical island. So, a lot of people who are short, they're moving to Mexico, they're moving to Portugal, they're moving to all kinds of interesting places. Or you could just travel. You could be a digital nomad. Those things don't interest me. But, other people have different ideas. I have a friend who wants to move to Italy with his wife and just retire there. He can't really afford to do it in Southern California, but he could do it in Italy. So geo arbitrage, think about that. If you come up way short and you still want to retire, and it's an option for you to relocate, that might make everything work. So the final thing I want to say about this whole subject is don't lose a bunch of sleep or worry. I got to tell you, my biggest regret, I'm 7 months in right now, and I spent months just literally freaking out, not sleeping. I remember one time I was laying on my back with my eyes open, staring at the ceiling at 3 in the morning. My wife's like, "What the hell's wrong with you?" And she wasn't really thinking, okay, I just lost my job. I'm trying to decide if I could retire or not, all the weight of that. But looking back now, I'll tell you right now, I spent a lot of time worrying pretty much over nothing. So my advice to all of you is, instead of worrying about something that you can't control, run all the numbers, crunch everything, put it through the what ifs and test it, and so that you have confidence. And so you don't have to worry. I'm a lot more confident now that I know what's going on and I have a good solid plan. Plan may change, but guess what? For now, I know I can pay my bills for the rest of my life. And that's an amazing feeling. And all of that time I spent worrying and wondering, man, I wish I had it back to do something more productive. So please don't do that. Don't lose sleep or worry. Get a plan. Plans give you confidence, and go confidently into the future. So that's all I have for now. That's what I have for today. If I missed anything you want me to cover or you have any questions, let me know. I could always do a follow-up. There's a lot of stuff we skipped over. This really is a summary, but that's the basic 3-step plan, and some what ifs thrown in. So listen, thanks for listening to this subject, and let me know if you have any questions in the comments. Okay, everyone, I made it to the top of the heap, end of the line. I'm up at Grandview Point, and at the top of the Pine Knot Trail. And so it wasn't too big of a deal. I'm barely sweating and huffing and puffing. So easy hike, about 7.5 miles there and back. So anyways, I still got to walk down, but that should be a piece of cake. I wanted to show you something really cool. Behind me, these are 2 of my 6 peaks. San Gorgonio, that's 11,500 feet. And this is San Bernardino, which is like 10,700 feet. So those are 2 of my 6 peaks that I have to hike. And they're coming up, but those are the 2 hardest ones. They're going to be the last 2. So anyways, at least I get a little bit of a picture of them, and I will hike them soon. Hey, just wanted to say thank you for coming along. Hope you enjoyed the subject matter for today. As usual, thank you so much for liking and subscribing, following my channel, commenting. Really appreciate it. And I wish you all health, happiness, and prosperity. God bless, man, and I'll see you next week. I got another big adventure. I'm going fishing in Colorado on the Grand Mesa. You're going to like it. All right, talk to you soon.